Well, we enjoyed your beautiful city last night. And
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I think we should get started. Can you hear me back? Thank you. Thank you. So good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to all those joining us on this beautiful day. My name is Michelle Percy-Normore, and I have the pleasure of serving as Vice President, Academic and Research at Algoma University, as well as your Master of Ceremonies for this morning's special announcement. Whether you are with us on the Sault Ste. Marie campus of Algoma University or joining virtually by NOSM TV, we are glad you've taken time out of your day to participate in this special announcement. Although I won't directly recognize everyone in the room, I do extend my sincere appreciation to all the community leaders who are here today, including MPP Ross Romano, who is not quite here yet, but will be very soon, and Mayor Matthew Shoemaker, who are both graduates of Algoma University. And also joining us is our Member of Parliament, Terry Sheehan, another huge advocate of the university. In addition, I extend a warm welcome to all those from NOSM University who have made the trip to Sault Ste. Marie, the Sault Ste. Marie campus today, including President Sarita Verma. We are truly excited by this collaborative partnership that's emerging between our organizations. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't extend a note of appreciation to Chancellor Turco and the academic leadership and staff from Algoma University who have joined us as well. I also wish to share that we are very fortunate to have access to the beautiful lands across Turtle Island where we live, work, and play, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge a truly special place, the community of Sault Ste. Marie and the Shingwak site on which I stand today. A place that holds an important part of Canada's history of the first peoples of this region and beyond, a place of immense cultural significance. The Anishinaabe name for this area is Bawating, which means the rapids. Bawating is a gathering place where much of the trading took place among the Indigenous communities and later with the Europeans and others. We are in the Robinson-Huron Treaty Territory, and the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, specifically the Garden River and Batchewana First Nations, as well as the Métis Nation and other urban Indigenous peoples. As a member of the Algoma University community and as a visitor on these beautiful lands, I personally commit to supporting all efforts which embrace truth-telling, healing, and reconciliation. Today's agreement is one such example of the work underway. As I know many are connecting virtually, I would ask each of you to please take a moment to think about the personal commitment you will make to support truth, healing, and reconciliation efforts where you live, as well as your responsibility to care for, appreciate, and respect Mother Earth and all that she provides. We are gathering this morning to celebrate the emerging partnership between Algoma University and NOSM University, one which will provide long-term benefit to the community of Sault Ste. Marie and other communities throughout Northern Ontario and beyond. So I'll now ask Ozma Vesna, President and Vice Chancellor of Algoma University, to share brief remarks on behalf of the university and this partnership.
Well, good morning, everyone. Ani, bonjour, welcome, bienvenue. It is so nice to be here. Sarita, it has been a number of months since we began the conversation about what we're going to celebrate this evening, or this afternoon, this morning. It is this afternoon. It is the morning. 10:30. Yes, this week has been a bit blurred. I just came back from holidays and I'm coming out of holiday brain and trying to jump right back into the swing of things. But I wanted to start by thanking everyone for coming here today. And I want to ensure that people in the audience today understand the significance of what we're celebrating. This partnership is going to be transformative in our community, and I believe across Ontario. And I thought I would, just to emphasize, I thought I would share a story to start us off. And as you know, Algoma University, the initial site that we began our journey on, well, actually, we started up at what's the Sault College site in the early 1960s, but we moved to this site in 1971. Ross, come on up and sit with your colleagues here. Nice to see you. So we'll have to give Ross a grand entry.
Thank you for sending me out
there. And so when we moved here in 1971, I don't think any of us understood the significance and what would happen as a result of us moving into a former residential school, which closed in 1970. And I've had the great fortune, and I say I'm so grateful to have been able to work with the survivor community who went to the Shingwalk Indian Residential School. Many of them came when they were 4, 5, and 6 years of age. And so as we've been working with that community, they have taught us through their stories. And one of the things that they have shared with us is that you can't get to healing unless you first deal with the truth. And so what they've worked on over many years, it started about 45 years ago. They started the truth-telling work, and they actually started the healing work with the children who went to this school. They would have gatherings every couple of years. Hundreds of people would come here who had been at this Indian residential school, and they worked on their healing journeys together. We learned a lot from them. We learned the stories of what happened here on this site. And with that, we started to understand that we also carried responsibility. The exhibits, if you have a chance to see the work of the survivor community, if it's not today, hopefully you'll have a chance to see the exhibits that are emerging in Shingwalk Hall and on the lands that the university is situated on. They have done an incredible job of the truth telling. Now, when we first started to talk with the survivors about this, you know, we basically said, how can we support you, right? But the university started to get a lot of credit for the exhibit and the work that was going on in Shingwalk Hall. And so we actually have come to the realization that's not our work, right? We should not be getting any credit for the work of Shingwalk Hall and the truth telling. And we've had to really think deeply about what is it that Algoma University, in partnership, what is it that we're going to do in this period of reconciliation? What action or actions can we take that will have a real impact across our country? So we're doing a number of things. One of the things that we have committed to is the mental health and addictions. We're just on the start of a journey. And the story I wanted to share with you today came from a funeral that I attended in Walpole Island. And it was the funeral of a residential school survivor. She was a fierce champion. She was an incredible leader. I owe a lot to her for helping me to build my understanding. And her name was Susie Jonesbaugh. And when I was at her funeral, what struck me and what stayed with me for a couple of years before I realized and understood why I heard that story that day was because it's led me to where I am today in terms of this partnership and this work. So the story is we were celebrating her life and people were coming up in the auditorium and they were sharing stories about Susie. And they were acknowledging the work that she had done. She was close to 80 years old when she passed. And one gentleman stood up and he was the same age as Susie. And he talked about how much admiration he had for her. And he said he always admired her for the ability to come back to this site and do the work of healing. And he shared with everybody that he was never able to even step foot on the Shingwalk site after he left. And what he shared with the audience is that his hope was that someday he could actually make it through one night without waking up in a night terror. I didn't understand the impact of that 3-4 years ago when Susie passed. I understand it today. So what I see is, or I guess what I question is, how can 80-year-olds still not be sleeping through the night? So it's really pushed me to look at what's happening in our university, in our community, how we're treating childhood trauma, how we understand the experience of those that we're trying to help and serve. Are we doing more hurt and harm in some of our approaches, particularly just because we don't know or we don't have the training or the education? We have incredible people working on the front lines. We have incredible physicians and medical staff, nurses. I saw Sault College here. We have an incredible program in our community. But these questions still sit with me because I'm not sure. And so we've been talking at the university and saying, maybe this is the area that we really concentrate on. And we focus on how best to graduate our students with that trauma-informed understanding. And if we can do that in a way that actually celebrates cross-cultural belief systems, multiple worldviews, and if we celebrate and work with the best of the Western knowledge base, but we incorporate other knowledge bases and other worldviews into a more holistic approach to healing, maybe then we'll start to see something change in our system. You know, people have told me that we treat heart attack patients very differently than we did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But with mental health, we don't think we've changed a lot, but we know there are some really strong evidence-based programs and research coming out across the world. And so what we're very interested in is globally building our capacity and our understanding, and then building out programs in partnership with people like NOSM University, so that we can ensure that when we graduate students or when the community is coming to us for evidence-based practices, strong research, that we can actually make a difference here. So that's sort of my compelling reason for being here. I also want to share with you that, again, as we start to look at this mental health and addictions thing together with community, every one of us has been impacted by mental health in our families, right? My most personal experience is my father's suicide. And I saw him trying to figure out how to navigate. But being a farmer who was in close to 70, it just didn't work for him, right? And we could see it as a family, but we didn't know how to navigate the system either to get him the help that he needed based on his lived experience. And so you all have been touched in some way, shape, or form by what I'm talking about. And so I just ask that as we work and learn together, that we open our minds up to new and different ways, and that we don't bash one way, but we think about how can we open ourselves up to multi ways of looking at helping our community solve what is a major, major crisis across this country. So I have not stuck with my script, and I'm sorry about that. But I think what I am so excited about today is welcoming Sarita and her team. What you're going to see today is a signing of an agreement that sees us working in very close partnership. One of the things that happened when we did the feasibility study for the Mental Health and Addictions Research and Training Institute, which was really spearheaded and ideated by MP Romano, because we could see the issue that was happening in our community, right? And we could see that we needed to resource this. And so from there, we did a feasibility study, and there were a number of partners that were with us: Xinhua Kinolmagamig, the local hospital, Sault College, NOSM, and Algoma University, and of course, a much wider net was span in terms of consultations and looking for other partners to join the team. Out of that feasibility study came a phased approach to moving the Mental Health and Addictions Research and Training Institute forward. And the first thing they said is, you've got to get the medical school into your community. You need to have that level of expertise and that level of training in your community. And the research parts that they will contribute will be phenomenal. And so they urged us to think about, in phase one, how could you expand the presence of NOSM University? And so the university, both universities have been in conversation over the last several months about what is it that we can do together. And I want to acknowledge Chancellor Turco here as well, because the building you see at the back, about a year ago, our board made a very strategic decision that they would invest in a third floor on a building called Mkwawakayagan, and that the third floor would be dedicated to this space of working on the Mental Health and Addictions Research and Training Institute. It's not a huge space. It's the first stage. Our hope is to expand the science building. We have plans for an extension off the back and an extension towards the east. And we want to have NOSM University on this site. We want to see the third campus built, and we want to see medical practitioners and professionals expanded so they can train right here within our community. I want to also just end by acknowledging the work of our social work department, School of Social Work, I should say, and what's emerging into a School of Health Science, I think. The psychology staff are working on 2 master's degree concepts right now, and we want to work very closely with NOSM. Our sociology and Anishinaabe studies and a number of other programs are really, we've got a new health science program being delivered in the biology department. And so these are going to be very important linkages as we work really closely with the medical school to say, what programming can you deliver here in Sault Ste. Marie and across Northern Ontario? And what programming can we do? And then where can we link up and collaborate and bring our resources together? So we're not doing duplication, but we're actually enhancing what we do. This is going to move beyond mental health and addictions. I can see that. But for today, we're celebrating joint hire. We're building out a leadership position that will take this work forward. And we're starting to begin the conversations about working collaboratively on some of the things that I've shared with you. So thank you very much, Miigwech, merci. It's wonderful again to be here, Sarita, and to you and your team. Thank you so much for everything that you've done, for believing in this partnership. Your passion goes way beyond any leader I've ever seen. And I think you understand why we need this in Northern Ontario. And to Terry and Matthew and Ross, our MPP, our mayor, our MP, thank you for your unwavering support. Thank you for pushing us. Thank you for the funding for Mkwawakayagan. All 3 of you have contributed to the vision of this building and what it's going to do. And to everyone who's going to be playing a part in this important work, thank you for your commitment. So with that, and without further ado, I think, am I turning it over to Sarita or Michelle? Michelle.
Just for a minute.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ozma. This partnership is definitely one that is of significant interest to our faculty and our researchers and all of the northern communities as well. So now I'd like to call on Dr. Sarita Verma to the podium to share some remarks on behalf of NOSM University.
You want your glasses on?
Sure.
I mean, so you can
Did I even
see,
put
you
them
can
on? I
see
can't
me while I
remember.
talk. Good morning. Hi, everybody. Let's get excited. Bonjour. Ani, bonjour. Bienvenue. I am absolutely delighted to be here, especially to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of Garden River and Batashwambe First Nation and Métis people, but it is also reverent land. It is an amazing place. And for those of you who have not had a chance to see Shikmwak and to be at the amazing museum and to learn, it is a transformative experience. And as we think about not just acknowledgement, but truth and reconciliation, and if we could just reflect about that, we can reflect about what's happening with food insecurity, serious water insecurity, personal insecurity. We'll talk about mental health and addictions, but human trafficking and some of the things that are affecting people in this community and across Northern Ontario. When we reflect upon that, what is our duty? What is our job? What are we as privileged people? Sorry, but we're rich, privileged people who have opportunities to be physicians and academics and leaders. And that privilege gives us power. That power must be used responsibly. I use a lot of quotes from Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility. I also use quotes from Star Trek, which is first do no harm, which is the prime directive, but it's also actually Sir William Osler's great statement. So learn, listen, observe, don't be scared, don't be apprehensive, don't be anxious. The future is right in front of us, but it is up to us with our power and our privilege to actually make those changes. We could be complacent and sit back and say, it's somebody else's job. Let's just let this unfold, because you know what, that homeless man on the street, we see this on TikTok or other things, you just walk right by, right? But with our power and privilege and our courage and conviction, it is time. We're on the cusp of major transformative change. Chancellor Turcot, thank you. President Vezina, thank you. What great friendship. Mayor Shoemaker, actually, we went to the same law school. We share friends from law school, and it's really nice to meet you in person. I'm excited by your leadership here. And of course, Member of Parliament Sheehan, we haven't met before. I've heard a lot about you. It's all good.
Okay, good.
Waiting anxiously to see what happens today in the cabinet shuffle. And that's going to say a lot about commitments to mental health. Carolyn Bennett is stepping down, but also to Indigenous health. We are hoping Patty Haidu sticks around for us. We have a great relationship with her, but you know, we'll see what the Prime Minister says. Minister of Health Duclos has also been very helpful for us. You know, we have a lot to say in our space. It's all your fault. Many years ago, actually just 2 years ago, we were at the cusp of not being in existence. The insolvency of Laurentian meant that half of our medical degree was insolvent, and according to standards of accreditation for our flagship degree, we were basically facing being told we were either going to be on probation as a medical degree, despite what Lakehead said. They said becoming university would be a problem. No, the only solution was to become an independent university, and MPP Romano stepped up at the time Minister of Colleges and Universities and blazed a trail. And it was a scary thing, right? I mean, you know, we went lickety split into this without much understanding of what it meant to be a university. And it is an exciting adventure, although also with all kinds of new things, you know, hire a registrar, hire our first provost, Céline Larivière, who's here. A fantastic team. Could the people from NOSM U please put up your hands? You don't want to, but please do anyway. Come on, Steve. Yeah, the peace sign. Fantastic team. This is just a bit of the team, you two at the back. Really a fantastic team. And by the way, we have some alumni here and leaders here. Ed Hervey's here. We have some fantastic leaders here who are from this community, not just contributing, but also leading in what we do as a university. As a university, we've only been around for less than a year. We got, around a year, over a year. So we got proclaimed last April, and we have been in the stage of trying to figure out what that means. And President Vezina is right. We actually started these conversations about 4 years ago when I started as president, actually at the time dean. But I was under the auspices of a board run by Laurentian and Lakehead, and it was verboten to look at any potential consolidation of what currently happens, which is this is the third largest concentration of learners and faculty for the then NOSM Medical School. But when we became a university, we blazed the trail of starting a new board of governors, as I said, a new provost, Chancellor Cindy Blackstock, who is a world-renowned child activist, Indigenous leader, and you know, she's got me by the nape of my neck. She's not going to let go. These issues are very important to her. But we now have the opportunity to innovate, to create. Another quote, space, the final frontier. It's not. But these are the beginnings of the voyages of the USSS or CSSS NOSM University, Canada's first and only independent medical university. What does that mean? It means very little to people when they say, oh, what does that mean? You're just NOSM. NOSM U, please. The U is you, but the U is very important because as a university now, we have the freedom to do a lot of things. We are in an unprecedented expansion of the medical programs. We're doubling the size of our medical school. And I'll speak more about this if you stay for the town hall. And certainly later on today, we're also having a foundational discussion with an invited group to talk about what does it mean if we're going to explore the feasibility of actually becoming more entrenched here in Sault Ste. Marie with the partnership of Sault College, Sault Area Hospital, Algoma University, the municipality. So space, the final frontier, you've asked us to be part of this great moment in time. Delighted, because space is at a premium. Currently, we are still owned by Laurentian in our space in Sudbury, waiting patiently to find out if we'll end up getting those buildings. And we are currently still under lease on our buildings in Thunder Bay. And that's an issue that continues to be a challenge. So we don't actually have any independent space, and we're excited by that. The last thing I'm going to say is mental health and addictions. And you told a very compelling story, Ozma, but the reality is as a family physician and as somebody who sees the effect of 4 to 5 times the effect in this community and across Northern Ontario. NOSM University is pan-Northern. We are from Kenora, to Temiskaming Shores, 1,800 square kilometers. We are in 90 communities. But as we continue to think about these opportunities to grow, that is one of the compelling themes. How do we address poverty and the trauma that has led to mental health and addictions? How do we solve this? Because this is a significant burden. And I will tell you, honestly, it's an economic burden, but it's a psychological burden, it's an emotional burden, and it's a significant burden to the growth and the future of Northern Ontario. Listen, I'm sorry, but we're not well known down there. If you come to my town hall, I'll show you a picture of the new medical schools, and the current medical schools are all in the south. We're the only game in town. And we have the training, the expertise, the success to be able to lead this. But we need to be able to do it well. So thank you, Miigwech. Fantastic opportunity. We already have an agreement. This is a revision to the current agreement to allow us to look at ways to grow more. And I want to thank all of you for being here today, because especially that new aspiring medical student, hopefully psychiatrist in the back, but our family doctor. We get them young. But I really want to say miigwech for being here. It's really wonderful to have this chance to announce our development in our partnership, and I'm excited. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Verma. I will now ask Dr. Verma and President Vesna to come forward to formally sign the collaborative agreement. Any media present or others who wish to take photos may also approach the front.
I guess I'm not supposed to sign Hillary Rodham.
That's your legal trade.
Got it.
Thank you, Dr. Verma and President Vesna. I know this marks a significant step forward in a partnership that will have positive impacts within our community and beyond. I will now ask Ross Romano, Member of Parliament for Sault Ste. Marie, to share a few words on the importance of this expanded partnership to our community.
Well, good morning still, yes, everyone, and thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you for having me. Ozma, thank you for organizing this, of course, and Sarita, Dr. Verma. I also welcome Chancellor Turco and Mayor Shoemaker and MP Terry Sheehan. And to all of you here, and I understand there's some students in the program as well in the medical school of NOSM U. So welcome to Sault Ste. Marie. Hopefully we formally have a space for you within just a couple of years or so. I was asked in my notes to keep my remarks to 2 minutes, and that's quite challenging on something like this. For those of you who know me and chuckled already, it's challenging for me to keep just about any comments under 2 minutes, let alone something of this nature. You heard a couple of comments throughout the day here, and I think what I will say is both NOSM University and Algoma University, when I first got into the role as the MPP here in the community, they were certainly not without their fair share of challenges, I guess we can say. And we were really all byproducts of our area, if I can put it that way geographically. And Sault Ste. Marie certainly was not without its fair share of challenges. Our challenges are many. When you look at the overall health sector, the challenges in Northern Ontario are tremendously outweighed to our friends in the South. It's just a simple factor of geography, right? And that's what we've heard, especially as elected officials, we hear that a lot. So we have challenges in healthcare, an extreme challenge with mental health in particular. A lot of people were crying for help throughout northern communities. Sault Ste. Marie, no different. We needed a treatment center. We needed help with the mental health and addictions challenge. We needed help with the challenges surrounding homelessness and helping those people at risk of homelessness. A great number of challenges. I've always firmly believed that where you see challenges, you need to find the opportunity. A community like Sault Ste. Marie has often been a place that has been plagued with challenges, but how do we use our specific geography? How do we use that challenge to our advantage? Well, look to its people. Look at the history of the place. I remember when I first got involved as the Minister of Colleges and Universities, one of the first meetings I had was with then CEO of Surrey Hospital and OSMA here at Algoma to look at ways where we can think of those opportunities that might exist in the area specifically of health and very specifically mental health and addictions. Something that I realized being responsible for the research sector here in the province of Ontario is that it's a tremendous research sector, renowned worldwide here in Ontario, and yet limited research in the area of mental health and addictions. Now just stop and think about that. A budget of in excess of $300 million that goes towards research in this province alone. And there was virtually none of that being spent specifically on mental health and addictions. No one's really explored that area. Enter an opportunity. Potential to have a niche. Well, why would Sault Ste. Marie? Why would Algoma University? Why would that be special? What would be good about us that creates that niche opportunity? Well, we have a residential school, and we all know about the trauma that's been caused by residential schools. And we're learning about that. We're still uncovering the truth about that. And as we look at reconciliation, what it means, it's about healing. That's what helping with mental health and addictions is about. It's about healing. We're starting to learn all this fascinating stuff now in the research world, specifically in the areas of mental health and addictions. We're starting to learn about treating the root causes of trauma and how much that assists in dealing with even physical health concerns. So when you look at the opportunity that exists here at a place where so much trauma originated, and to flip that into the opportunity. Because look at what we can learn from a place where in the province of Ontario, we are not currently situated in the building, but just over at Chingwak Hall, which is the only freestanding residential school in the entire province of Ontario that you can walk into. You can tour around. You can walk the same halls of those people who suffered all those traumas. You can see their pictures on the walls, you can see the colors they wore, see the life they lived. And through that, we have the ability to learn. So it seemed to me just natural that a partnership between Algoma University and NOSM University that could provide a solution to that incredible challenge that we all face on rostered patients in our area, just overall in the sector of health. To be able to get more family doctors in the area, to be able to get more health human resources training on the ground in our community to service other communities in the north that are so underserviced, but to focus on a niche area of mental health and addictions, to be the Sault Ste. Marie solution to a national crisis was something I used to say quite often. Right? How do we create that Sault solution to a national crisis? Because it's not a provincial crisis, it is a national crisis. Crisis is continent-wide and growing. So certainly I thought that that was an awesome opportunity, but, and I won't bore you with any more of the challenges, you've heard a few. I will leave you with this. When walking into this idea and starting this path before the feasibility study, before the university, Algoma University wasn't yet a university. And NOSM University wasn't a university. So there was an absolute inability to even get off the ground without a coalition of the willing. And unfortunately, there just wasn't a coalition of the willing at the outset. So the coalition that was willing put their heads down and got to work. And that's what led to this partnership here today. It took becoming a university twice, with Algoma getting its full accreditation, NOSM University receiving its full accreditation, and now a board of governors that can focus on the path for NOSM. You can focus on the path of a pan-northern medical school, which it was always intended to be since its inception. It was never intended to be one particular medical school that would serve only one or two communities. It was meant to service the very subject of its name, Northern Ontario. And now it can do so. And I am so proud of this partnership announcement, and I'm looking forward to the various number of announcements where we will be able to see these two flags fly together and continue to do some pretty impressive things in our community, and hopefully prove that we can be that Sault Ste. Marie solution to the national crisis, and also manage to check a few other boxes in the way of helping our health human resource needs. And also, and certainly shouldn't be lost, seeing a tremendous increase in the economic viability, which cannot be understated, of both Algoma University and NOSM University, and supporting them for many, 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 many years to come as very strong, competitive, not sustainable, but competitive institutions in the landscape of Ontario post-secondary institutions. I thank you very much again for your time. Appreciate being here. And I'm looking so much forward to so much more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MPP Romano. We appreciate your longstanding commitment to both universities, the NOSM and Algoma Universities. I will now ask Mayor Shoemaker to bring remarks on behalf of the city.
Thank you, bonjour, Anim, bienvenue, and everyone's speaking a different language at the beginning, so I'll say benvenuti to all who are here. It's my pleasure to be here today on behalf of the City of Sault Ste. Marie and City Council, and to be here with both Dr. Verma and President Besnet. I've got some remarks on the importance of NOSM U to the north, and I think Dr. Verma, I'm going to go a bit off script here, but Dr. Verma, you touched on the fact that when your board was made up of Laurentian and Lakehead members, it was a no-no to consider expansion into other Northern Ontario communities. But we all know Sault Ste. Marie is at the heart of the Algoma District. The Algoma District is about 8 hours end to end. And it's a big gap for a school that calls itself, or at the time called itself NOSM, not to have a major presence in Sault Ste. Marie. I know you've had historically Carrie Stewart, who works here on the NOSM portfolio, and physician recruitment has always worked closely with NOSM as it was then. But having NOSM University established in Sault Ste. Marie, or potentially established in Sault Ste. Marie, is an enormous fulfillment, I think, of the promise of what NOSM was when it was established 14 or 15 years ago. Algoma University, when I was here, it was Algoma University College, and we saw the transformation that happened when it became independent. And I played a very minor role in that, but I was happy to play a minor role in that as a member of the student union at the time it became an independent university. But it is recognized, as well as Sault College, as the backbone of our future economic prosperity. We need the development of Algoma University and Sault College to drive our future, and finding partnerships like what has been announced today and like what is being explored through the NOSM U's future looks at expansion is what our community needs to thrive in the years ahead. Now, you had mentioned the place of privilege that we all come from in tackling the challenges that we have. And it resonates, I think, with Terry, Ross, and I, because people turn to us and they say, there's a mental health crisis. What are you going to do? Ross and I are lawyers, and Terry's worked for the provincial government and training colleges and universities for most of his career, the background in economic development. I don't really know how to tackle a mental health and addictions crisis. I'm not trained to tackle a mental health and addictions crisis, but I think what we can do from our places of privilege, from the roles, the leadership roles that we hold, is do what it takes to bring the expertise to us. And I can tell you from the city's perspective, we will do whatever it takes to have NOSMU located in Sault Ste. Marie, because we have a crisis. We've got a mental health and addictions crisis. We've got a higher rate of certain health indicators like diabetes in Sault Ste. In the Algoma District than elsewhere in the province. Most importantly, and most, I think, unfortunately, we've got the second highest rate of opioid overdoses and deaths in the entire province. And that is a problem that we need medical support for, that we don't have the expertise to provide, but that you do. And so to have you considering our community as a host community is exactly what we are prepared to help with. And from the city of Sault Ste. Marie's perspective, you can count on our unwavering support for your continued expansion into Sault Ste. Marie. And you had mentioned space as a challenge. We'll find you space. Don't worry about it. If we need to give you space, we'll give you space. If you want an office here, you've got an office here. So we will get NOSM U space in Sault Ste. Marie, whatever it takes. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to the years
Awesome.
ahead.
I'll be calling you.
Yeah, that was on video. Thank you, Mayor Shoemaker, for your commitment to universities as well, and to the all the lives of Sault Ste. Marie members. And so last but certainly not least, I invite MP Terry Sheehan to the podium.
It is a great day. And I heard the thunder earlier, and I thought about the Thunderbird sort of like applauding. Congratulations to all of you. And it's truly an honor to be here to celebrate this day in Sault Ste. Marie and to congratulate all involved. You know, I know that both Matt and Ross graduated from Algoma University, as I think are attended here in the bios. My son graduated from here too as well, and he's working in the social field in Sault Ste. Marie. And he works with people with mental health and addictions. So he was actually over for supper, and he just took another job, another promotion. He's taken on more clients. So I can attest to the high quality of the students that are graduating and have graduated and that are here today too as well. So want to thank you for that. And today is a great celebration, and listening to some of the comments, you know, our government took a look at mental health and addictions with a different kind of spectacle, especially around addictions, and treating it as a health care crisis, and really looking at it through the eyes of how we deal with this, you know, through science, through evidence, through research, through working in those communities. And, you know, we've established quite a bit of funding around there. And I mentioned that because in my remarks, I'm just going to highlight some of the funding that we've already done with Algoma University. You know, traditionally, the federal government did not get involved with post-secondary education. It was provincial and territorial jurisdictions. But in collaborating with the provinces and territories, we've been able to earmark funding towards our universities and our colleges. And you can see that development here at Algoma University, in particular with Shinwa Hall, millions of dollars in there, into the beautiful display in tribute to the survivors. We just lost Michael, a good friend of mine recently. I came in the wrong door and I saw a smiling face, so it was very touching. But we've also invested in science and technology here, including the research chairs, what I think of, that are studying flora, fauna, cancer, Indigenous truth and reconciliation. We're supporting studying of water as well, and that importance. We also have partnered with the province and with the university at the new home of the Bear Den, Macaulay again. And that was $7.1 million. And that was really, really important. So, you know, through working together with all three levels of government, with the university, with the survivor community that has guided us as we have looked at their vision and how, you know, we can achieve things here at the university. All I know is I just see a beautiful partnership and opportunity in the future. And listening to Mr. Mayor, I was both on council with Ross and the mayor. When NOSM was announced, this was before the two of you were on, when it was announced, some of the councillors remarked that when the announcement happened and it was Sudbury and Thunder Bay, they called Sault Ste. Marie the hole in the donut. So today, I'm glad to say that we're filling the hole in that donut and with this signing. So I'm sure Mr. Steve Butler, who coined the phrase, will be quite happy. So I just want to say congratulations again. And I look forward to continuing to work with you and look forward to some great new partnerships. Thank you.
Okay, so before we end, and Michelle will make the final remarks, I just want to acknowledge some of the students that are here with us today from NOSM University. And you heard I was hiking. I don't think I told you I was on holidays last week. Well, I was actually on holidays with one of their mothers. And I told her I might put this student on the spot. So I'm wondering, Jamie, if you can come up for a minute here. And if all the students could just stand and give a wave if you're from NOSM University. Just want to acknowledge your presence here today. They're shy. But Jamie, I actually have been pretty close to her. She and I have hiked the Spirit Trail a few times. And the story of getting to medical school and the challenge. This is an Algoma U student who worked very, very hard to get into NOSM U. She's coming back to our community, right? Yeah. I just want her to say a couple of words on behalf of the students of NOSM U. And I think that's a great place to finish our morning together.
Yeah, okay. So like I'm Jamie. I wasn't prepared to say anything. I'm a fourth year. I'm on the East Campus. But I'm from Sault Ste. Marie and I came here for university. I did a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Actually, one of my professors is right here. And so, yeah, like she said, it was hard work getting into NOSM, but once I was in here, it was like fantastic. But hearing that there's now this collaboration is fantastic. Like I'm very, very happy to hear, especially from the perspective of Algoma, because I feel like it's, I don't want to say underrated, but I feel like not a lot of people know too much about it. There's only one other student from our class who is from Algoma and Algoma U alumni. But it's really great to hear that there's going to be a collaboration, and I love the Soo. I've come here for placements. I'm actually here on two-week placements now. And yeah, I want to come back here as a doctor. So I'm very happy to, I'm very happy to hear this. And I think it's really great for Algoma too, from the perspective of Algoma. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jamie, Ozma, and MP Sheehan. Well, this brings us to the end of our announcement portion of the morning activities. And so we'll soon be moving into the NOSM U Town Council presentation. And before we do, we would like to just take a few minutes to allow any media who are present here to come forward for a brief media scrum with President Besna, Dr. Verma, or MPP Romano. While media are asking questions, others may take a few minutes to enjoy some refreshments in the back of the room. Thank you once again.
I do. Do you want to check with the yard?
for lunch at noon and then.
Everyone, we need everyone's attention here at NOSM University Town Hall.
So I'm hoping that people are still online because we were supposed to start at 11. Ani Boujou, welcome, bienvenue, Dr. Sarita Verma. I'm the President, Vice Chancellor, Dean, and CEO at NOSM University. Thanks for being here. And for those of you who are online, thank you for joining us online. Today is our first town hall in Sault Ste. Marie since we became Canada's first independent medical university. And the purpose of the town hall is to continue what I've been doing with Jacqueline Kopp Rasmussen and our provost, Céline Vivière, throughout, right at this point, a piece of northeastern Ontario, but really northwestern Ontario. So we started at Atikokan, and then Fort Frances, then Kenora, then Dryden, then Sioux Lookout, back to Thunder Bay. And we were supposed to go to Wawa yesterday, but we got derailed by traffic issues. So we ended up going back to Thunder Bay and flying here so we could be here for today's event. Merci to President Bezina and of course, Chancellor Turco, Mayor Shoemaker, I think Member of Parliament's Sheehan and Member of Provincial Parliament Romano have left, but those of you who are still here, medical students, is that Emily?
Yes.
Jamie and Emily, and did Danielle leave?
She had to step out.
Yeah, but you're very welcome. And what I want to do today is just spend a little bit of time bringing you up to speed as I did in these other communities as to what's going on. What are we doing? And we're actually really excited that there's so many amazing changes going on with NOSM U. So I'm going to go to the PowerPoint. Do I need to do anything in particular? I have it. Maybe the up top button. Anyway, while we get started, I think our first, you can just go ahead to the next slide if you like. I think first of all, you know, in the context of Truth and Reconciliation, as I said early on as well, I feel really blessed to be here in this part of Northern Ontario on the traditional lands of Garden River and Patachewan Bay First Nation and Métis peoples. But we are all over Northern Ontario. And for those of you online, or even those of you who are not from here, reflect for a moment what that means to you. In Sudbury, we're on the traditional lands of Atikameksheng and Wanapitei First Nation. In Thunder Bay, we're in the traditional lands of Fort William First Nation. But wherever we've been in this journey the last couple of weeks, we really realized that actually the connector for all of us is First Nations people. And the fact that there's, you know, large areas like Treaty 3 doesn't go by Thunder Bay, Sudbury. It's a whole geographic entity into itself. And it's an area that I don't think we appreciate as much as to that is the original geographic alignment of people in Northern Ontario. It's not by, sorry, Mayor Shoemaker, but it's not by the colonial carving up by municipal boundaries or even provincial boundaries. When you're in Kenora, you realize it probably should be in Manitoba, but some cartographers stood there and drew a line. My family originates from India, which in the post-colonial area, you know, somebody went there and drew a line between India and Pakistan and between people's homes. So the concept of, you know, colonialism actually really is embedded in our geographic distribution of what we think are boundaries that dictate how money flows and how resources and transportation and healthcare flows to these boundaries, like hospitals are based in these boundaries. But what does that mean for the people who were originally here and the people who continue to live here? And I will say for the first time publicly that one of the things that we support is the health transformation agenda of First Nations people. And to be honest, the transfer of funds to the autonomy of First Nations people is going to be a critical and important part of that. And it's going to be a critical, important part of what we do as institutions in partnership here in Sault Ste. Marie and in Algoma to talk about how we address the health inequities in Northern Ontario. So I know that's a bit of a long and sort of typical territory acknowledgement, but I think that territory acknowledgements today have become very much, if I see person after person getting up there and saying thank you and we acknowledge, I really want you to think about what that means. Because I do every day. I think about it when I see forest fires, I see people being brought into hotels in Thunder Bay from being evacuated for water and fire. And I think about the planet. I think about the 7 grandfathers' teachings and how we should learn from them because, you know, planetary health is at the crucial point of what we do. So this brings me to our mission, which as a university hasn't changed, except for those last few words. And that's what I'm talking about, which is we are, you know, our original mandate was physician workforce supply for Northern Ontario. It's a very narrow mandate under the auspices of Laurentian and Lakehead University, joint degree. We've expanded to health professions education in Northern Ontario, which Dr. La Riviere, provost, will be helping us lead, and advocating for health equity. And President Vezina, that is what we're talking about today. Why are we partnering with you, or why are we doing what we're doing right now is because NOSM University became a university and has been rewarded for a number of things because we are truly Canada's only and greatest health human resource success stories. We talk about all the things that are wrong, right? Oh my God, I'm depressed when I listen to the news. And I don't listen to it a lot of the time anymore, but I listen to NOSM News. NOSM U is successful at what we do. Why? We actually train people outside of the traditional classroom. So yes, I'm interested in exploring the conversation here in Sault Ste. Marie, but we are not going to get away from our traditional distributed community-centered learning model. And I say this out loud because many of my preceptors and your colleagues are scared we're getting away from rural family medicine. We're not. We're not getting away from that. So stop that rumor. We're not getting away from distributed community engaged learning. However, we are evolving. And as we evolve, this model will stay the same, but we will be building on this model. So for example, training one learner and one preceptor in one community, and I'll show you some stats. Our potential to grow as we expand our work and do other things could be laddered learning. A student, a clerk, a resident, a chief resident, Emily and Jamie, that's where you would experience that. Now you still will have massive, excellent clinical material. You'll still be the only surgical assist in a community, but the chance to learn with residents around you will be important, and interprofessional learning. Physicians do not live alone. They are a little elitist and think they are the only people on the team, but the reality is physicians are part of an interprofessional team, and interprofessional interdisciplinary team has slipped in the last few years. Our biggest crisis in Northern Ontario is actually not physicians. Oh, did I say that out loud? I shouldn't, maybe, but the truth is it's nurses. And without nurses, and in fact, we have a crisis in rehabilitation sciences, without physios, occupational therapists, we do have a crisis in dietitians, pharmacists, dentists, personal support workers. We need everything. And so our goal is to look at the integrated approach to health human resources. Hope I didn't push it too much. So we're doing a bit of lead up to this, which is we started in 2005 with 56 first-year medical students. Okay, that was basically our program, our flagship program, the one we're the most proud of. It's fully accredited, fantastic program, innovative, internationally renowned. We are in the next few years going to 108. That's doubling the size of the medical school class. That's 108 per year for 4 years. It takes 4 years to make an MD. For those of you from the public who might not understand, that's not a graduate doctor. That's someone with a doctorate degree. But then they have to go on and do residency. So we're also doubling our first year residency positions from 60 to 123 first year residency. A little more than half of those will go into family medicine. That's actually dictated by the government, but we believe in that because actually 50% of our class chooses family medicine. That's the highest proportion in the country. It's around 20 to 23% in the rest of the country. We are doing a good job, and we have the best family medicine residency program in the country. Tell your friends, okay? Come here. We actually fill our residency program after the second round of the match, and we have high caliber people. And if you stay here to do your residency, half of our graduates stay in Northern Ontario. Now, they might say, well, what happens to the other half? That's always the half glass empty person. The fact is, with the class, we do have people who want to study dermatology or plastics or, oncology or radiology or other programs that we don't offer. We only offer 9 residency programs right now, but we are going to add 20 new residency programs. Now, calm down, everybody, because people get worried. I hear right away from the postgrad people, what are you doing? Look, it takes about 5 years to do that. In family medicine alone, there's not 70 residents coming into the system. It's 2 residency positions this year, 3 next year for all of Northern Ontario. And it's a graduated, slow, incremental growth. And the goal is actually to look at new sites and new capacity. And we have in our tour and a lot of our work discovered that there is new sites, there is new capacity. We don't need to be frightened of doing things differently, especially with laddered and interprofessional, interdisciplinary learning. Look at where we are. And I'm sorry, this is a busy slide, but I wasn't going to do one for every community we were going to. So we put it all on together. And of course, you'll see that Sault Ste. Marie has 270 learners in the last 5 years, over almost 1,500 rotations. Bravo. You are a fantastic site. You should be proud. Stop being scared. It's fantastic. This is a highly regarded site, fabulous teachers, really good learning, great hospital, great college, great university. And by the way, great opportunities with our 106, 108, 110 placements, which are modules for those of you who don't know, but those are community placements that are really, really transformative. No other medical school does this. And so these are fantastic. But you'll see that there's some places that in the last 5 years had 1 learner and 1 rotation. Well, why couldn't they have 5 learners and 5 rotations in the last 5 years? Why wasn't there 1 a year? There is capacity, and I'm actually kind of telling my leadership, stop telling me there's no capacity. Everywhere I go, people say we'd love to have learners, but there's some issues that need to be resolved. And I'll get to this later, especially for you, Mayor Shoemaker. One of the biggest problems is that we don't have housing for our learners. And that's a problem because all the communities we've been to, except Dryden, is that we got funding for travel and accommodation because our program is very distributed, as you see. And you can't, we didn't get money for cars, by the way. These kids have to figure it out. But the reality is it's expensive. And our funding for housing has been at the same rate as it was in 2010. But the rents have gone up by almost 80%. So we're in a bit of a pickle because we're cross-subsidizing housing for learners with other things like not hiring people that we need. Our AVP of Finance is here. It's music to his ears because I'm working hard to resolve our structural deficit and to get the additional parity, which is it's a 29% cost of living increase. And again, these are other rotations, but these communities could take people, but our biggest problem has been housing and travel and accommodation funding. That's not something I can negotiate, and it's not something we can't increase tuition. And frankly, that's probably not a great solution, right, guys? Tuition has been frozen in the public education sector for what, 5 years now? That's not helping. We are capped at our numbers. Okay, so I've had government say to me, well, just increase the number of students because that's what universities do. Medical schools can't do that. Medical universities can't do that. We are told how many positions to put in. We cannot increase our medical school programs. We have a tiny graduate program called the Masters of Medical Studies, and it is tiny, it's growing. New programs that Dr. LaRiviere is going to grow with hopefully Algoma and other groups take about 36 months to get permissions through the Ministry of Colleges and Universities called the PCAB process. And we're not going to do any of that until we do an environmental scan to find out what's needed in Northern Ontario, where are the jobs in Northern Ontario, where is the innovation in Northern Ontario? Do we need virtual medicine navigators, for example? Do we need medical scribes? These are short certificate programs. Or do we really need to open a dentistry degree or pharmacy degree, etc.? So we're going to be doing some work, but we're not going to be like a light switch that flick it on and say, oh, here's the new programs. It's going to take a few years. So as I say, everybody calm down. It's going to be fine, but we're going to take an approach to this. But our biggest problem is travel and accommodations for the medical students. As I said, you're doing a great job here. And by the way, look at the leadership from Sault Ste. Marie. There's some fantastic leadership here. I go to other sites. So why is that? Because you know what? I think there's a real hunger and interest in academic medicine leadership. That's a career path unto itself, right, Ed? It's a fantastic career. You know, I'm at U of T for 15 years, and all those people had masters from OISE or PhDs from OISE in medical education. We've got people who have life experience who step up and do the job and do a fantastic job of it. And look at the amazing leadership that we have. So 156 faculty here. I think the gentleman who's gone now, Kim and Joanne, send them the data. Because he asked me how many are here, and I couldn't remember. 56 of the teachers here are NOSM U alumni. Again, let me just point out to you, we've been in business since 2005. The first class graduated in 2009, okay? They went into residency, and if they graduated from family medicine, that was 2011. They went into practice. They've been in practice for about a decade. It takes a decade to get your feet on the ground before you want to teach people, but they've been taking learners. If you did Roy Hodge specialty, like pediatric psychiatry, that's 5 years. So they actually only have been in practice since 2013. They've only actually been in practice for 10 years. And in 10 years, we have produced, oh, these are more learners, but I'll tell you more about what we produced in 10 years. Also, learners in Sault Ste. Marie right now, including our colleagues at the back, we have 16 learners at any time. And I ask you, throw down the gauntlet, double that if you can. Don't do it if you can't. If that's going to hurt your system and if that's going to overwhelm the system, then don't do it. I'm not asking you to take it on and then harm what you have now. But if you have the capacity to grow, I don't know. Let's do it. Because, as I said, in the last 15 years, our last graduation and convocation was in May of this year. We've had 900 graduates. If you add them all up, including the dietetics, it's about 1,000 graduates. And as I said, 50% of them stay. We have the largest proportion of Indigenous students in the country. And I get asked a lot of those questions. We have self-identified Indigenous students. We do not select by treaty or by particular group because we cannot interfere with admissions. Admissions is the one area where I actually have no role. It's slap on your wrist or slap on the face if you get involved by the accreditors. You cannot in medical schools get involved. And we can set certain numbers. So we've identified that our goal has been 20%, although many schools in the country have 3%. That's the rest of the country. Manitoba and Saskatchewan are getting better. UBC is okay, but NOSM U is the best in the country. And the highest proportion of Francophone students, because again, don't forget, we're part of a Francophone. We're not an Indigenous only university. We are Francophone and Indigenous, and we have a number of Black students now, and many equity deserving groups that are coming forward to say we need to be represented in the physician population. And that's going to be our approach for health professions as well. But that's the largest proportion of Francophone outside of Quebec. Pretty good, eh? But it's like waves on the sand. And again, I'm sorry this gentleman has left because one of the media guys was pummeling me with questions as to, well, I can't get a family doctor in Sault Ste. Marie and my friends and all these problems, right? And frankly, the article yesterday about GHC was about people who had been abandoned. And I don't know if you read it, but that's not good. That's not good. That's not good. It's not good messaging. You have to solve the problem, okay? Because we need 350 physicians right now, okay? That's 5 graduating classes of NOSM alone. We are not going to get there. It takes 6 to 7 years. Family medicine is going to 3 years of training. It's going to take 7 years to get a doctor out into the community. So that's long-term plan, okay? Brampton's opening a new medical school. It's going to take them 10 years to get doctors into the community. So I guess Ross is gone, so I can say this. Thank you, Premier Ford. It's been great, but that's not going to solve the problem today, which is there's a shortage of doctors. And we don't just need family doctors, guys. We need specialists. There's a huge wait list. You refer as a family doctor to psychiatry, and it's 2 years to get in. I have a significant autoimmune disorder. I can't see a rheumatologist. I have to go to Toronto. The other thing is, and I apologize to you guys, but the reality is you practice differently than the Marcus Welbys of the world. They're practicing now 3 physicians will replace 1 existing physician. It's a different way. Gender, age, and what I call boutique practices are that people just practice emerge or just practice anesthesiology, and they're counted for comprehensive family medicine. Burnout is a problem. 50% of our doctors, they predict, will retire in the next 5 years. So I said this as well to the media. It's a buyer's market. So you're competing as a community with everyone else. 7 million, over 7 million people need a family doctor in Canada, and over 2 million people need a family doctor in Ontario. And by the way, the models of remuneration for Northern Ontario are not competitive. It's harder to live here. You're the only doctor in a community. You have to manage emerge, trauma, critical care, do obstetrics, surgical assists. You have to do everything. If you're where I was in downtown Toronto, you're pretty well practicing safe general practice, referring people to specialists and writing prescriptions. It's a buyer's market, guys, and Sault Ste. Marie had better step up. Just a regular recruitment is not going to work. If you want to get people to come here, yes, growing your own is great. But there's no solution to this problem right now where you need physicians, where you need to recruit them. So why? It's not just about healthcare. It is about healthcare, but ask any Canadian on the street, Justin, what are you worried about? What keeps you up at night? The economy and my health. So it's about the economic growth of the community. It's just a fantastic start. I'm excited by the partnership, but we need to grow and build this community, make it attractive to work and live here. It's a beautiful community. Make it attractive to live and work here. Maybe stop some of the issues that we're all burnt out and tired, because everybody is. Every community is, but Whistler knows how to do it, right? They know how to recruit. There are communities in Canada that know how to recruit where everybody's burnt out and tired, but they have created new models of remuneration. They've provided housing for the physicians that come, schools for their kids. They are upwardly mobile professionals. Jobs for spouses or partners is a big deal. If you cannot find a position for a trailing spouse, that's a problem, and we need to help with that. And then finally, it's about the economy, right? They bring in, for every dollar a physician brings in, they bring in allied health professionals, which results in $10 to the community. And we'll go into this because basically the point here is we need an integrated approach to HHR. It's a municipal solution. It's a provincial solution. It's post-secondary education. It's the hospital solution. It's the college solution. And it's an integrated approach to making the community welcoming and exciting to be in and to want to practice medicine and healthcare here. We just say a little bit about our economic impact. In the last few years, it's probably doubled. Our economic impact was around 65 million in 2019. It's probably 120 million now. And with expansion, it's only going to go up. So we want to stay in business. I said to Matthew and to Ross, help me resolve my structural deficit, because if I don't resolve the structural deficit, growth in Sault Ste. Marie will be stopped by the board. I'm just telling you the truth. To grow, we need to be financially sustainable. And President Vezina knows this. This is a Ontario-wide problem for universities and colleges. If after Laurentian, if we didn't, those who do not learn from the lessons of history are destined to repeat them. We are destined to repeat this. And we are now 1 year old with a $4 million deficit. Next year, it'll be 5. The year after that, Lance will be 7. We don't want to go down that road, and we certainly don't want to borrow from the bank. So we're telling the government, look, solve this problem. And okay, you want to solve it for all the other places, but we're also not U of T with the $250 million endowment to rename the Faculty of Medicine. We need something, although it would be nice also to be able to bring in some money. And I'll talk about that in the end. Our strategic plan has not changed. We added the 5th level, which was becoming a university. Been there, done that, so tick that one off. And we're excited. We're actually doing all of these things in our strategic plan, and we're measuring them. They're successful. We can share more with you. But the most important part of our strategic plan, and I tell this to every community, and please tell your friends who aren't here, tell the people online if you are listening. Sault Ste. Marie, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I love coming here. I love seeing you. It takes so hard because I'm always having to go around and you're away a lot, but it's great to see you. It's great to see our friends. It's great to say thank you to you, miigwech, merci beaucoup. Because you know what? It's great to have a community where learners love to be, staff are growing and taking up leadership, and we now have an excellent future together. Finally, we have a new campaign. It's called The Future Will See You Now. Remember, the doctor will see you now, but ours is the future. The future is we are raising money. You're raising money here. In Sault Ste. Marie, the Bring the Doctor Home campaign has raised almost $500,000. You can't raise money and then, you know, say, well, it only go, like, you can't get a student and give the student the money and say you will come back. What you have to do is provide bursaries and create a repeated experience for learners who have a positive experience, so they will want to come back. They know the job's here, but they have the opportunity to live and work here. And there's a lot to be said. I don't think this community is well branded as you could be. It's well known for mental health and addictions and human trafficking in the media, but it could be better known for the beauty, the excellent restaurants, by the way, fabulous infrastructure. We were saying on our way here, boy, the roads are great. These are really good things, right? And actually, I think there is nice housing. Sorry, we're from Sudbury, where potholes are epic there. They're the size of old Volkswagen fields. But the future will see you now. We're getting close to our $50 million mark. We will be launching another 50 million, we hope, but our goal is gradually to raise the money. I'd love it if you know anybody, like somebody who gave, you know, somebody a lot of money, like we think we would be happy to name our institution. So if you know rich people, we're happy to talk to them with ethical reasons though. So thank you very much. That's the town hall. I'm happy to have a dialogue with you or chat with you. I know we went well over time, but I tried to keep it down to about 25 minutes. So thank you. Happy to have a conversation with you. And I don't know if there are questions online. I don't think we can take them. No. Hello.
I'd love to. Oh,
Who are you?
apologies. My name is Ishtani. I serve as Associate Vice President Academic at Algoma University. I'm curious what other academic programs are you planning in addition to the MD program that you presently have?
That's a great question. I'm just getting my water. Well, Celine's going to figure that out. Our provost.
It's gonna be a process.
Our process will involve probably, first of all, again, a lot hinges on our ability to recruit the right people to do that work. And creating, you know, we're interested, you want to create a school of health sciences. We were just created with essentially the medical school in the legislation, and they made me the dean. I would like to see in the future a school of medicine and a school of health sciences, but that's something where we might be able to save money and be efficient and do it together and collaborate. I think that, what do you have? You know, where can we actually do joint degrees? But the truth is, I'm not interested in participating in nursing training unless it's nurse practitioner, nurse anesthesiologist, nurse mental health, nurse, you know, there are lots of additional areas, but there are enough people training nurses right now. And we don't have the desire to get into that fight with Laurentian and Lakehead either. But as I said, what is the need? Is there a job? Is there a good business case? We've been approached by a lot of programs to say, take us on, but their business case is bad. And I'm not getting into that business case. We will have to go jointly to MCU and say, fund this at the rate. Medical education right now is underfunded by about 70%. What we get for our BIUs is substantially lower than what it costs to fund a medical student to train. So as I said, to me, I'm a fiscally accountable president. I believe that we can do other things. We would be interested in international programs, but in medical school, we cannot accept international students. It's not permitted. So as we grow other programs, could we look at international programs? As I said, it would take us about 36 months to get there.
Could you say a little more about seems obvious to me that the solution on this shortage is to remove that cap that you were talking about. Why are they not doing that?
Well, it goes back to the 1970s, where health human resource planning was part of there's been about 15 attempts at this, Chancellor Turco, nationally and provincially. The models that have been used are essentially that it is a highly, it's a subsidized, fully funded area of training. Tuition is frozen, and the capping depends upon a number of factors, but essentially, if you have a product that comes to market, it ends up in the system, and you have organizations like the Ontario Medical Association that negotiate the physician services agreement with the government where billings occur. The billing pie doesn't get bigger. So then the physicians get worried that that pie is going to get smaller if too many people come into the market. The other issue is that they've never been able to agree on what's called a stock and flow model. So I mean, I've been around this business long enough to tell you I'm getting, Groundhog Day, la plus ça change, because now people are doing it again. And I get irritable because lovely people like it, this their first foray into this. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake. But the reality is they can't agree on, for example, basic things like doc-pop ratio. If you just take the number of docs that the family doctors say there are in a community, the government will actually say that's all you got, right? But in fact, they're counting people who are 79 years old. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they're not practicing full practice. They're counting people who are just doing emerge shifts. They're not practicing full practice. So there's a lot of complexity in the model. The model is a government model. The universities have no say in it, and I'm actually trying to push a few things provincially and nationally to say, could we possibly open up to other venues like international medical graduates? There's a lot of bias and racism there. There's a perception, oh, they're terrible. The truth is they're not. People are not dying in India or Uganda or Poland because of incompetent doctors, maybe war and poverty. They're good, competent doctors that the federal immigration brings to Canada because they're great candidates, and then they're driving taxis.
Just as a follow-up, then, if they won't let us increase the cap, maybe they have to change the model. For example, I see family doctors as gatekeepers. You can't get a prescription. You can't be referred to an X-ray. You can't be referred to emergency or whatever without not the emergency, but to a hospital specialist without the family doctor. Yet there aren't enough family doctors. They won't let you increase the family doctors. Then change the model. Does a family doctor have to be the gatekeeper? Somebody else that we can increase, be able to do that job.
Do you have any thoughts about that, Ed?
I don't think there's much of a cap on family doctors. There's certainly a shortage, and there are spots available both to train them and for them to work in abundance. It's just that we have not enough. But I think what the College of Family Physicians and nationally what we're recognizing is that we can't do it alone. And so as Dr. Verma pointed out, we need nurse practitioners, we need physician extenders, physician assistants, which are not well supported by the government, that we train at NOSM but have nowhere to go or work because there's no funding. These individuals that can help provide that access to care. And I think there's a movement nationally to realize that we're never going to meet the needs of every Canadian having a family physician, that we need to do it with our allied health support.
I think we welcome the change in family medicine. I think as family physicians, we're very, very interested in that change, but we're locked into the fact that who's going to do that work. So for example, I said some of the things that I'm interested in are things like training medical scribes, salaried medical scribes who can work with a family doctor, who can actually do the notes while the family doctor is talking to the patient, who can actually write the note for a bus pass. I mean, why am I as a physician who's done 9 years of training filling out even disability forms that take hours to do that you get, $75 to fill out? But the reality is a lot of family doctors also see that as a chance to do billings. If you're in a system where you're basically in that billing frenzy, then every way you can do to bill more actually is a bit of an addiction to the system. So prescription refills are a good example of that. Why don't we just make vending machines in emergency rooms? And if you fill out the parameters and use artificial intelligence, I'd love to talk to you about that. let's create a system where even in malls, you can go, you have a UTI, dip the urine in the machine. It comes up with evidence-based practice. But even giving, scope of practice to pharmacists and nurses, there are physicians who had a nervous breakdown over that because it's a medieval guild mentality, right? Where the people around King Arthur's court and we own this. And so there has to be also a cultural shift in the mind of the physicians, not the family physicians, but a lot of specialists are like, no, this is mine, Gollum. Asma?
Sarita, we're engaging in a conversation that we have little control over right now, I would say, in terms of some of the challenges with the structure of the healthcare system in Ontario, and I would say in Canada. But I do think if we consider transformative work in Northern Ontario, I think you're hitting the nail on the head when you talk about how can we work together on utilizing technology for what it can actually do, and training graduates that have that capability as they enter the workforce at any level of the medical profession. I think that's an area that we should explore together. The other thing you talked about was business case scenarios and market analysis. The university already has a very well-established process for ensuring that any new program that we bring in has that market analysis done, and we build out a business case for it. It's part of our success and part of our model.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the process right now of examining, and we're just getting started. This is why the timing of this is so good. We want to build out healthcare, so health, what's probably going to end up being called a health science, school of health sciences or something like that. But what I'm asking for in the development of the vision for our health sciences program is to address those shortages that we're talking about. So if we need nurse practitioners, if we need chiropody, if we need programming that supports the aging population in Northern Ontario, if we need rural practitioners that are not doctors but need to do a lot of medical training to be able to service their community because they may be the only medical professional in their community. How do all of these things work together? And I'd be very happy to think about how we build a school of health science together. Like, why would we do that separately, right? And I think when you speak a little bit to government lobbying, I think we've got to get moving on clearly we've got a provincial strategy for lobbying the government. We've got a national strategy for lobbying the federal government. But I'm not waiting,
No.
right? I am not waiting for the government to hand out funds. So we need to be entrepreneurial as university presidents. You and I have had some awesome conversations about how we can do that. And how we can actually fundraise together as well. This community wants to get behind NOSM University. They are already behind Algoma University, Sault College. So I think there's a real opportunity here if we want to build the health sciences and science professions out a little bit more. Not just a little bit more. I think we can do something pretty substantial. And I know you keep telling your team, don't panic. It's going to take
Well, it's a
time.
change management thing,
It's
right? The
change
first thing I hear is, oh, no, we can't do it.
Yes,
Let's
but
do
I
it.
mean, you've
But
been
they
through
haven't
it.
changed anything for 15 years because
Well-
this is what it was created to do, just make doctors, just do 56 students. All of a sudden you're expanding. What do you mean? Well, there's actually capacity out there, but no one's actually been out there. So, we have some work to do. We have some leadership challenges in that. The one thing I never want to hear again is this is the way it's always been done. Because the truth is, we're training people who are actually practicing with fax machines. Our public health person will say, we've got a lot of work to do, but what's artificial intelligence doing? The truth is, go and look up Google Bard, right? ChatGPT is redundant. We've got massive artificial intelligence out there that can take on about 25% of the workload of your family doctor. You do not need a human being, but you're going to have to deal with the public who believe, I want to see the doctor. I mean this, I love it. I'm a family doctor, but the truth is you do not need to see a person, a human being, and we're going to have to change that mindset. Secondly, as far as the business case is concerned, Ozma, Healthcare, public education, and airlines are all run badly. Well, airports, I don't know what it is, but I have, 90% of my flights are delayed and canceled these days. It annoys me. And I don't know what the heck's going on. It's the same thing in emergency rooms. I don't know what's going on. If I order an Uber, I know where that car is. Why don't I know where my specialty appointment is? The technology is there, but healthcare is either too tired or too overwhelmed, lacks the innovation and lacks the initiative, and frankly, the chutzpah to get it done. And so, in my last few years of my life in these leadership positions, I'm going to poke a few bears and say, let's get it done. If we can do it here, and innovate here, I think we should start to lead that conversation. My last point is this. I said this to a bunch of mayors yesterday. You need to have a comprehensive strategy to talk to government. If the AMO is coming up, I'm not invited, she's not invited, you're invited. You get to meet with the ministers. It's now not enough to lump us in with the rest of Ontario. There are 7 medical schools in Ontario. 6 of them are in Southern Ontario. Okay, the new ones in Southern Ontario. They do BUPCAS for Northern Ontario. But there is no strategy to comprehensively advocate for us because they don't understand or hear us. For NOSM U, they don't understand that it actually does cost a lot more. And by the way, the products is fantastic because people are in community. They're not sitting with their bums and seats on St. George campus with 400 other students. That's not the best way to train physicians in this world. But we need the municipalities who were the ones that yelled loudly to create NOSM in 2002 to go back and say, look, Laurentian, Lakehead, Algoma, NOSM U, Hearst U, is that it? Nipissing is the other one. These universities need to be supported and enough of this, right? We don't care what you do with the other ones because Queens and U of T and all those places have a lot of money. But you need to support the northern institutions.
And I think there's a very compelling argument for a special purpose grant for NOSM University because of the expansive geography that you are dealing with and the geographical challenges and the mission of this university. Special purpose specific to this independence of this university should be something that our politicians are lobbying hard for.
Yeah, but I do need northern politicians, the Northern Caucus federally, the provincial, it's very nice that we have the scattered members of cabinet. The best thing we had was actually a member of cabinet from here who could advocate for it. That power at the cabinet level is very important because in November, when they're taking their requests to Treasury Board, and by January, when they make the decision to give out money, it's too late for me. So by September, we're going to be mounting a campaign with our GR to say, we need to do this. I need your help. I already told you this. I told Ross as well. We need to go after this, but what we cannot do is sell Northern Ontario. You need to sell Northern Ontario because it doesn't come just from one institution. By the way, what's wrong with Northern Ontario? It's a great place to live. You're not going to get cancer like you will on the Gardiner Expressway of colon and prostate cancer. Those are 3 times the levels. You're not going to live with all the tragedies of Toronto. Go ahead, tell me.
Thank you.
I'm going to sit down though, if you don't mind. Can I move this over here? Oh, I don't need to.
So I'm Michael Chris, I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Science here. And I grew up in Northern Ontario.
Yay.
And I left. And I spent the last 20 years in upstate New York, very rural place. Great healthcare. Less people than Sault Ste. Marie. Great healthcare. Doctors there, medical doctors, dentists, etc. Canadians. They're all Canadians. So there's a group of people that would like to come back to Canada, including Northern Ontario. That's one of the reasons I came back, because I found I could come back to this community. It's a good university. Okay, I can contribute to it. So I know you're not in the business of bringing folks from who are trained elsewhere to Northern Ontario. However, we've served NOSM's need. If we can help attract people here that are already trained as doctors, because there's nothing better, more attractive than going to places where you're part of the community. There's other good doctors here. I want to be part of that. I'd like to go back to Canada, but oh, I gonna be overwhelmed with my workload if I go to Sault Ste. Marie? Children, Chateau.
But the fishing is grand.
Oh, it is. Also, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on. something.
We're very supportive of the pathways, particularly academic registration. That's up to Sault Hospital though. And we need leadership there to be able to say academic registration because that is a route. NOSM U plays a role in that, but the supervision of the academic registrant who comes to do research and provides clinical service is at the hospital level and needs to be attested by a hospital person. And even in Thunder Bay, we've had problems with them saying, oh no, we don't want to do that. So we have a little bit of challenge with very traditional thinking physicians who say, oh, I can't do that. But if you invest 10% of your time in that kind of activity, the other one is practice ready assessment. Internationally trained grads can come and you can supervise them for 2 years. So it was in Atikokan. Was it in Atikokan? They have one young lady who is a practice ready assessment. They're really busy. They've got lots of work to do. They have lots of workload, but they found it within themselves to supervise one PRA because the investment is that in 2 years, that PRA has a return of service and can stay in your community. And by the way, don't just let them come and stay in their community and tell them, oh no, you know, we have no East Indian food. You've got great East Indian food, but or we have no cultural activities. Make them love your community during those 2 years. Because if they feel abandoned and they have no family and they don't know what to do and they're lonely, they're not going to stay. But if you do PRA, again, I've had pushback from clinicians to say, no, we're tired, we can't do it. Find the extra gear. You know, I've had a horrible week. I've had people yelling at me, lawsuits coming up the ears, and then something happens and, you know, you find the extra gear. That's what makes you a good to great leader. There are avenues through the colleges too. The biggest challenge, to be honest, is the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario, which governs licensure. So you can get licensed elsewhere and you could probably get equivalency from the Royal College or the College of Family Physicians. But Ontario needs to decide that they're going to license people. So the Atlantic provinces got together and they said, you know what, we're actually going to open up licensure. There's like a big Hoover sucking sound going into the Atlantic provinces from Canadians studying and working abroad. Ontario needs to make that decision. And by the way, we do everything we can. You know, now you can tell I have no filter left. I yell and scream at every table I'm at, and I'm pushing provincial HHR strategy, federal HHR strategy. But we have a lot of traditional thinkers out there. I pretty well need a full generational change because all the other ones are like, you know, well, I'm sorry, I'm too busy. I can't do this. I can't do it. And the truth is, find the extra gear because we're not going to solve this problem with expansion of medical schools. In fact, in about 10 years, we'll be in the position where they'll say, oh, there are too many doctors, right? Back there, David?
Thanks, Rita. Since you received your own charter, how active have you been working directly with First Nations communities?
We've always been, David. We have, and is Sam gone?
Yes.
Oh, that's too bad. We have one of the most unique programs in Canada called our 106 placement, which is a 4-week immersion placement in 30 communities. We have direct relationships with communities. We have student placement agreements. I think our relationship is really good. I think it's open, it's respectful. We've had tough times where I think in the past there was some deep-seated, both intentional and unintentional, unconscious racism in the system. I think for Indigenous students, it's been a struggle in the past where, you know, they've been told, well, you just got in because you're Indigenous or you're a worse student. That's not true. And I've actually had to work hard. I think, frankly, being a woman of color and again, having strong opinions has been, we will not tolerate racism. What's the challenge is that out there where we don't have control over, and frankly, some of the physicians and nurses who practice out there, our students not only experience racism, they observe other people experiencing racism that's extremely painful for them. And that's a problem. And I've had students come to me who've been in distress because in some of the hospitals, it's pretty awful. And you've seen that. That's not new. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, look, we have seen the reports from BC. We've seen the reports from Thunder Bay. We've seen the reports from many institutions across Canada that Indigenous people do not find hospitals or healthcare places safe to go to. They're not culturally competent leaders. So one of the things that we are doing, and Celine and Joseph LeBlanc, our Associate Dean Equity, is helping us do this, is what we're addressing with a strong anti-racism strategy. Not just Indigenous people, but also Black people, LGBTQS people. There's just a lot of judgmentalism in our society. But I think, honestly, having lived in Toronto for 15 years and Kingston for 15 years, where they're on the cutting edge of tradition, the truth is, we in Northern Ontario, I feel much safer as a human being in Northern Ontario. I'm not kidding. I felt loved. I felt embraced. I have people come up to me all the time. Where were we yesterday? Somebody came up to me. Oh, it was in the airport. I have people in a metro come up to me and say, oh, you're the dean at NOSM. I think I'm pretty recognizable, but I feel embraced because I don't feel that there's that level of racism towards people who are visible minorities, but it is palpable with regards to Indigenous people. So that's a NOSM issue, training our students and doing cultural training. But I really think we need to do something with society in Northern Ontario. Hi, who are you?
Hi, I'm Shauna Klein. I'm wearing a couple hats here today. So I'm current chair of the board of governors at Sault College. And I'm also the vice president of transformation partnerships at Sault Area Hospital. So thank you for your refreshing comments. And this has been a really great morning and has given me some inspiration, some ideas. And I've been in a couple of rooms as of late that I've gotten the opportunity to meet 33 international medical graduates and some working at A&W and Burger King. And it does break my heart that is happening and knowing that we have opportunity here. So thank you for acknowledging that. Through that, had an opportunity to meet with some city folks and I know Mayor Shoemaker was also present at that meeting, in that we have opportunities to work together as a system. So from a Sault Area Hospital perspective, we tend to be a little bit reactive when there's holes in the system. So what we do is we want to react, because from trying to deliver care, because there's a hole, you react and maybe you don't create the most efficient program or reach out because you're trying to react and you don't create those partnerships or have those conversations in which you could do it better. This is sort of, I think, part of the conversation in that is everybody doing the right work in the right place, and is the care happening where it should be? And so these are the conversations we're having now more at the hospital than we've ever had, as well as at Sault College. I'm glad to see the same thing here, because you said the answer is us. The answer is the we. And I'll give you an example of where I think Mayor Shoemaker may be able to help as well. Is most recently the Ontario government, so Ontario Health, announced funding for innovation around a $2 million innovation fund around health human resources. And it's come to the hospitals, and it was directed at the hospitals. But it's a 2-year project type of fund. And this is where we struggle over and over again, because that funding is temporary. We're very risk averse from a hospital perspective because of funding issues. So we set up programming that's temporary, and the solution can't be temporary. The other thing, in meeting with Ontario Health partners in our community, so other organizations like Group Health Center, Algoma Public Health, that kind of thing, there is a lot of no. And it is there, and what I mean by is what you said, is it has to be about how we do things. But when you bring ideas up, you really see those barriers. It's because people are tired. I don't think it's coming from a bad place at all of change. It's how do we make the space for inspiration, good energy, like you had said, change the conversation about how we do this together. That is our win here in Sault Ste. Marie. I'm from here, born here, will grow old here for hopefully a very long time, and want my family to stay here. In fact, my niece is coming here in the fall, and she wants to be a doctor that works here. So it's here, but I just want to thank you for those comments, and whatever Sault Area Hospital can do as a partnership, we're there 100%. as well as I know Sault College is all in. So I just wanted to thank you because I needed this today and I appreciate it very much. Thanks.
I think I'm never a person to boil the ocean and then say, wasn't that fun, and leave. So let's talk about some concrete things. So the partnership is a really good thing, and hiring a joint hire is a good thing to actually develop what might end up being also the further conversation that we're going to have later today about how are we going to actually do this in the context of, resource attrition and, significant challenge was with human capacity. The challenge we have is human capacity with the people whose immediate answer is no, we can't do it, right? Let's start to change that to what can we do without feeling overwhelmed. And as I said, I'm going to try to move my leadership to thinking that 10% of your time should be spent on innovation. Okay. The end of your day, what is the one thing, or the end of your month, what is the one thing that you can do that improves the efficiency of what we're doing, right? Instead of just doing everything the way it's always been done. I'm looking at Steve because he's our IT guy. And, he's had to cope with lots of changes, cyber issues and things that, you just can't say, oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm too busy, I can't deal with that. It just has to be dealt with, right? And you find the extra gear. The other thing is to embrace the happiness of this, right? I want people to look at their happiness index, right? I think we have a very happy environment, except our clinicians. Our clinicians are tired, they are burnt out, but wherever I went in the community, they actually said, no, we're actually not. What we need is more tools that are at our disposal. And we actually have the tools at NOSM U, but they're not being well used. So the second thing is, what are the tools that we have? For us, it's faculty development, professional development. For us, it is administrative support. For us, it is a lot of things that we need to, what are the tools that we can put into effect that will improve people's lives so that they can reduce their burnout? And by the way, I think maybe a lot of those people need some form of leadership and psychotherapy development, because you can spend your life going, the world is dying, or you can say, we're going to change the planet and we're going to address climate change and make a difference. Or you can, say, oh, well, my one non-recycling doesn't make a difference if Nigeria is pouring sewage into the ocean, right? No, every little bit helps. And then I think finally we have to be more efficient, Asma. Every university and college is in this business now, and we're all competing with each other. Let's go and say we have a consortium across the north. I think a network of northern colleges and universities, our biggest problem is going to be Lakehead, because I think Laurentian will jump on. But I think a network that goes forward and says, here's our business case to address, at least from my perspective, health human resources. And here's how we're going to do it. And we're going to find efficiencies. This is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. But if everybody's opening a BSc in nursing, you're all killing each other, frankly. So I think there are pragmatic solutions. Finally, with the IMGs, the International Medical Graduates, I think we should seriously change our attitudes and saying they're not that good. They're actually really, really good. In Toronto, there are a lot of people being brought onto residency programs, but in our programs, it's like, oh no, they're not good. That's actually not true. And recruit specifically from people who are in the north who are doing those jobs, who have experience. Also, look at those people who didn't get into medical school in Canada, who went to other parts of the world, and see if they want to come home. So there are specific strategies that we can do, but we will need your help politically to get those policy changed at a provincial level. I hope those are pragmatic solutions, because actually they don't cost a lot of money, any of them. We're about 5 minutes away from being turned into pumpkins, I think. Joanne, any other thoughts or comments? Final words. I mean, our town hall was intended just to elicit these perspectives. We're very grateful for, all of the interventions from all of you, and keep telling us, keep telling Ed, keep telling, leaders here that we're in. Oh, what do you got there?
We have a guest. So Sarita, first of all, thank you for hosting your town hall at Algoma University. And it's been wonderful to have our chancellor and a number of key leadership and faculty, as well as community members, joining us. And this is a very special print. And basically, I'll take a minute to explain it, but it was painted by Zoe Wood Solomon. And at the Universities Canada Forum, she had the painting for sale at the back of her gallery. And I picked it up because it spoke to me about the work that we're trying to do. I did. So the painting is called Finding Our Way Back. And the way she describes it, and I'll just read what she's put with the painting, because I asked her if she would explain it. We do give this gift to very special guests as they arrive. And your vision speaks to what I saw in this painting and what Zoe talks about. And so the painting's called Finding Our Way Back. Finding Our Way Back. But I always get emotional when I do this because it's a strong connection. So it's speaking to the grandfather teachings, which you spoke so eloquently of earlier. Bravery, love, respect, honesty, truth, humility, and wisdom. Looking ahead to the future generation. We talked about the future in your message. We are finding our way back, fighting the currents of colonialism, racism, and bigotry. And your comment about the line going through Pakistan and India. Pakistan, India.
We can do it together. There's no.
We have family in both countries.
No bombs going between us right now.
It takes me about a year to get a visa for India. Probably take you a year to get one for Pakistan. But we are finding our way back, fighting the currents of colonialism, racism, and bigotry to a place where we can find peace, love, and respect with ourselves through our heritage and our culture. Many of us will never reach this place. We are dying as we journey home. You heard Terry Sheehan speak today about losing Mike Kakaju was that last week. Right? Very, very important leader and survivor in our community, did incredible work. Our ancestors watch over us. They are drumming for us, singing our ancient songs to us as we continue our flight upstream from home. And why this speaks to me is because we can all resonate with this, right? We all understand it in this room anyways. And we can cross-culturally look at this painting and say, yes, we see ourselves swimming upstream, but we're gonna make it.
I'm this fish though.
No, I'm not fish. Anyways, thank you again to everybody from NOSM University who's been with us today and for the exciting future that we have together in collaboration. I so look forward to it, Sarita. And, it's a
Think
very
10
special
years
day.
down the road, like, you know, people think, oh no, what's happening to us?
10 years
In
down the
10
road.
years down the road, what are we going to be? We're going to be awesome.
We're going to be awesome.
Maybe 2 years. Thank you so much. That's great.
You're very welcome. And this is
That's lovely. Thank you. I think there are folks staying for the exploratory meeting, which would be great. And I think there's a little bit of food next door.
Yeah, so lunch is next door, and I think the meeting is plus next door as well.
Very good.
Yeah, oh, that's so sweet.
Nice to see you. You're gonna hear from me.
Right on. Sounds good.
This year is good.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, very nice to see